In November 2024, Colombian naval forces uncovered one of the most advanced drug trafficking operations in history. Hidden beneath the Pacific Ocean, they found semi-submersible vessels packed with cocaine. One of these vessels was carrying 5 tons of the drug, with enough fuel to reach Australia without stopping. What investigators discovered next exposed a dark alliance that had been quietly growing for over a decade. Colombian drug cartels weren't just sending cocaine to Australia. They had formed alliances with the country's most dangerous outlaw motorcycle gangs. This is the true story of how South American cartels connected with Sydney's bikers based entirely on verified police investigations and court records. Chapter 1. Australia's Golden Drug Market. To understand why Colombian cartels targeted Australia, one key fact stands out. Australia has the highest street price for cocaine in the world. A kilogram of cocaine worth $16,000 in Texas can sell for up to $250,000 in Sydney. A kilogram that costs just $3,000 to produce in Colombia can generate between $160,000 and $200,000 in profit in Australia. These are not estimates. They are figures confirmed by the Australian Federal Police, AFP, the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, and other international agencies. These massive profit margins turned Australia into a prime destination for cocaine trafficking. Mexican cartels also saw opportunity. According to John Lawler, CEO of the Australian Crime Commission, Australia's high prices and significant demand for cocaine made it a magnet for organized crime. Chapter 2. Sydney's Outlaw Motorcycle Scene. Sydney's motorcycle gangs have been under surveillance since the 1960s. The Comanchero Motorcycle Club was founded in 1968 by William George "Jock" Ross, a Scottish immigrant inspired by the John Wayne film The Comancheros. The Hells Angels expanded into Australia in 1975, initially setting up chapters in Melbourne and Sydney. They now have around 250 members across 14 chapters. In 1983, the Bandidos Motorcycle Club was established in Sydney by former Comanchero members. Their criminal activities have historically included drug trafficking, prostitution, armed robbery, weapons trafficking, fencing, and murder for hire. More recently, they've moved into legitimate industries such as gyms, tattoo parlors, haulage companies, and security services. These groups are not merely suspected of crime. Australian law enforcement has decades of evidence, arrests, and court convictions proving their involvement in serious organized crime. Chapter 3. First documented connections. Federal intelligence confirms that operatives from Mexico's Sinaloa cartel have visited Australia to build ties with local traffickers, and Australians have traveled to Latin America for similar purposes. Nick Bingham, head of New South Wales Police's drug squad, confirmed that the huge cocaine profits have attracted a wide range of groups: Lebanese, Chinese, Albanian gangs, and especially local motorcycle gangs. Bingham identified the major players: the Hells Angels, Rebels, Bandidos, Comancheros, Nomads, and Gypsy Jokers. All are deeply involved in organized crime, and cocaine is now one of their most profitable ventures. This wasn't speculation. It was backed by intercepted communications, surveillance, and arrest records. Chapter 4. Operation Ironside and Digital Surveillance. In 2021, the Australian Federal Police launched Operation Ironside, the country's largest ever organized crime investigation. Using a covert FBI-designed encrypted messaging app known as AN0M, authorities monitored real-time communications between criminals, There were 1,659 active AN0M devices in Australia, and more than 19 million messages were collected. The FBI identified over 300 transnational criminal groups using the app, including Mexico's Sinaloa Cartel and Australian biker gangs like the Hells Angels. The investigation revealed the highly structured and compartmentalized way these networks operated. Criminals used different encrypted apps for various parts of the trafficking process, some for shipping logistics, others for hiding profits. Chapter 5. Arrests and International Connections. On November 8th, police in Melbourne arrested 2 men suspected of belonging to an international drug trafficking network with ties to Mexican cartels. One of them was a senior member of the Comancheros motorcycle club. The arrests followed a 16-month investigation with the DEA. Police seized $30,000 in cash, 2,400 pills, and about 350 grams of unidentified white powder. Warren Gray from the Australian Crime Commission confirmed that a growing alliance exists between Mexican cartels and Australian biker gangs. The Sinaloa Cartel is believed to be deeply embedded in Australia's cocaine trade. In June 2023, a Colombian national was arrested following a joint investigation by Colombian, American, and Australian agencies targeting a transnational plot to smuggle cocaine from Colombia into Australia. Chapter 6. The Narco submarine discovery. Colombia's Navy discovered a new trafficking route after intercepting a submarine packed with cocaine. This vessel was one of 3 semi-submersibles intercepted in the Pacific Ocean, all en route to Australia. The seizure was part of a 6-week anti-drug operation involving multiple countries. Authorities seized 225 metric tons of cocaine overall, 5 tons from a single submarine, with enough fuel to reach Australia. According to Colombian officials, a kilogram of cocaine can fetch up to $240,000 in Australia, 6 times more than in the U.S. Chapter 7. The Comanchero Network. The Comancheros are central to international drug trafficking efforts. The Australian Criminal Intelligence Commission labeled them part of the Aussie Cartel, a powerful network of Australian motorcycle gangs. They hold significant influence over both local and international operations. Intelligence reports confirm coordination between the Comancheros and the Hells Angels, including offshore partnerships. These larger gangs often control smaller clubs to manage domestic distribution networks and reduce risk. After the deportation of senior members under Australia's 501 policy, the Comancheros established a chapter in New Zealand in 2018. Chapter 8. Major Drug Seizures. In December 2024, the AFP charged 13 individuals, including 2 minors, with conspiracy to import 2.34 tons of cocaine into Australia. The drugs were bundled in 40-kilogram bales with an estimated street value of $760 million. One of those arrested was the vice president of the Comanchero Motorcycle Club's Brisbane chapter. U.S. authorities also intercepted 1.7 tons of cocaine in California as part of the same network. The AFP stated that Australian biker gangs have become trusted intermediaries for Colombian and Mexican cartels, playing a central role in drug importation. Chapter 9. Operation Ironsides Impact. As of June 2024, Operation Ironside has resulted in 392 arrests and 2,355 charges related to drug trafficking, money laundering, and dealing in criminal proceeds. Authorities have seized over 6.6 tons of illegal drugs, $55.6 million in cash, and 149 weapons in Australia. The operation confirmed that transnational alliances between cartels and outlaw motorcycle gangs are deeply entrenched and growing stronger. Chapter 10. National Convictions and International Scope. Across Australia, 63 offenders, including individuals linked to outlaw motorcycle gangs and other serious organized crime groups, have either pleaded guilty or been convicted at trial. In total, they have received 307 years of imprisonment. One notable case involved a man from Newcastle who was sentenced to 15 years in prison for his role in a conspiracy to import approximately 500 kilograms of methamphetamine into the country. He was identified as a key member of a transnational criminal syndicate with connections to the Lone Wolf outlaw motorcycle gang. Criminal groups involved in maritime drug trafficking into Australia include Australian outlaw motorcycle gangs, Mexican drug cartels, Asian syndicates, and smaller organized crime groups. According to the Australian Criminal Intelligence Commission, ACIC, 45% of high-risk individuals on the national targeting list involved in the meth trade are affiliated with outlaw motorcycle gangs. These gangs have also been documented forming partnerships with international organizations such as Mexican cartels. A years-long police operation that began in Manitoba, Canada, resulted in the arrests of 20 individuals, including a full-patch Hells Angels member. Authorities, including the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, and Colombian National Police, identified the group as part of an international drug and weapons trafficking network. Chapter 11. Money Laundering Operations. Police allege that the Hells Angels launder large sums of money by channeling profits through legitimate businesses. It is estimated that millions of dollars per day are being laundered in Australia on behalf of various drug syndicates. The 'Ndrangheta, Italy's most powerful mafia organization, has played a major role in supplying illicit drugs to Australia and exerting influence over local outlaw motorcycle gangs. Investigations show that the Australian arm of the 'Ndrangheta uses legitimate enterprises such as agriculture, restaurants, and construction companies to launder criminal proceeds. Their presence in Australia dates back to the 1970s when they began embedding themselves within lawful industries to mask illegal operations. Chapter 12. Violence and Territorial Conflicts. Violent confrontations between rival motorcycle gangs have a long and bloody history in Australia. On March 22, 2009, members of the Comancheros and Hells Angels clashed at Sydney Airport's Terminal 3 in a fight involving 10 individuals. The incident resulted in the death of Anthony Zervas, the brother of a Hells Angels member. Gang violence escalated in 2008, with 13 shootings occurring in Sydney over just 2 weeks. One of the most infamous incidents remains the Milpera massacre of 1984, where a violent confrontation between the Comancheros and Bandidos erupted into a gun battle that left 7 people dead, including 6 gang members and 1 civilian. Chapter 13. Law Enforcement Intelligence. During Operation Ironside, authorities charged several members of the Ndrangheta, some of whom were receiving orders directly from criminal leaders in Calabria, Italy. Intelligence reports suggest that their total numbers may rival the membership of Australia's largest outlaw motorcycle gangs. Phase 2 of Operation Ironside has identified up to 160 criminal targets across the country. These include outlaw motorcycle gangs, Italian organized crime networks, drug distributors, and trusted insiders. More than 20 search warrants were executed in Sydney alone, based on evidence obtained from the encrypted AN0M platform. One suspect was identified as an associate of the Comancheros, sergeant at arms. Chapter 14. Global Criminal Networks. The latest Operation Orion exposed previously unknown collaborations between drug cartels from Mexico, Brazil, Colombia, and Ecuador. Two major Brazilian crime groups, the Primeiro Comando de Capital, PCC, and the Comando Vermelho, CV, have emerged as key players in the global drug trade. The PCC is particularly concerning as a rising transnational threat. A new trafficking route between Brazil and Vanuatu is raising alarms, as Vanuatu's geographic proximity to Australia makes it a viable stopover point for drug shipments. Meanwhile, the Hells Angels are believed to be exploring opportunities to establish a presence in Latin America. In countries like Chile and Mexico, authorities have responded with force to the Hells Angels' expansion efforts, particularly because of their growing ties to powerful organizations such as the Sinaloa cartel. Chapter 15. Current threat assessment. Colombian officials confirm that modern cartels now operate as global networks, working across continents to traffic drugs into Europe, the United States, and Oceania. Semi-submersible submarines capable of traveling up to 10,000 miles without refueling are part of this evolving strategy, posing new challenges for Australian law enforcement. In one case, a 20-year-old man was charged for his role in attempting to import 21 kilograms of methamphetamine into Sydney. Authorities linked the plot to a Mexico-based cartel. Over the past several years, the so-called Aussie Cartel, an umbrella term for powerful Australian outlaw biker groups, has likely imported more methamphetamine and cocaine than any other syndicate. Law enforcement agencies warn that their financial power, influence, corruption potential, and operational resilience present a serious threat to Australia's justice system and democratic institutions. The documented reality, the ties between Colombian cartels and Sydney-based motorcycle gangs are not hypothetical. They are well documented and supported by years of intercepted communications, surveillance, court rulings, and hard evidence. Operation Ironside remains the largest organized crime crackdown in the history of the Australian Federal Police. It continues to weaken both domestic and international organized crime networks. Authorities estimate that these operations have disrupted drug trade routes worth at least $8.4 billion, according to Colombia's Navy. Law enforcement agencies across the globe have confirmed that Colombian drug lords found reliable partners in Australian biker gangs who offered established distribution networks, money laundering services, and territorial control, while the cartels supplied high-grade cocaine in bulk quantities. Every statement presented here is based on verified law enforcement investigations, official documents, and judicial records. The trafficking routes remain active, the profits are growing, and the alliances are strengthening. These are not projections or guesses. They are current, documented realities.